Sound is a sound. You know how we do. And in the lounge space today, welcoming back someone who is definitely a force, not only as a member of Run and Gun. Shout out and big up Mandem like Houdini. In the lounge space today, J.O. Mairs. Don't know.
Hey, what's going
What's
on, man?
up? What's up? Hell
Um,
yeah. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. I can't complain. Living life,
Right, right.
and busy.
You have been busy, dog.
Yeah.
I see the hustle, man. I see the hustle.
Yes, sir.
You just had the release party this weekend, right?
Yeah, we did a listening party for the album.
Right.
Um,
Sorry. Listening
yeah,
party.
yeah. Just a listening party. Just wanted to get some, some people that I personally invited to come out and listen to the album and kind of share their thoughts, get some footage, content
Yeah, man.
on. But yeah, it was dope. Super dope event.
Before we get into the Joshua IP, we're gonna take it back a little bit. You've been in lounge space before, but for anyone who was not, who didn't catch that episode, we did that on, I think that was Instagram Live still,
Yeah.
right? So just to make people aware of who Jay O'Mears is and who Run and Gun is, we're gonna start at the beginning, just a tad.
Yeah.
And we're going to start it off by asking you how you were first introduced to hip hop culture.
Oh man, that goes super far back, man. My introduction to
Yes.
hip hop culture is like childhood. When I was young, like literally 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Like I've always been into music. I have an older brother who's about 4 years older than me, and then
Okay.
a lot of older cousins who were putting us onto the hip hop as it was coming out, whatever they were listening to at the time. So like I had a cousin who was putting us onto like Tribe Called Quest and the Roots and
Hey.
like that more side of things. And then like a little while later into the game, like when I was maybe like 8, 9 years old, that's when we started getting like, the DMX and the Jay-Z and the Busta Rhymes and all that was starting to get worked into the, you
Right.
know, the the rotation of what we were
Yeah,
listening
yeah,
to.
yeah.
So DMX was one of the first like out of that list of,
I
go to
remember.
guys,
Yeah.
you know. He was one of the first that I was really like into like that when I was like 8, 9. Like I shouldn't have been listening to it, but like,
I'm saying, man, like someone in the household must have been like, "Why are you listening to the
yeah,
dog?"
yeah. No, because we were definitely low key about it, right? Because we
Yeah.
grew up in church and stuff too. Like so, like me and my brother, like
Hmm.
it's not like we were in the crib like bumping DMX in our room. Like if I had I
Okay.
had the Walkman, so in the headphones or whatever, like
Yeah.
we're listening to DMX like heavy, and then anything because DMX's influence was so serious, like anything Rough Riders was like I was on board. So Drag
Yep.
On was like another one of my favorite rappers back in the day,
Word.
and I got introduced to like the Locks, so like Jada Kiss and Styles P, or like
Mm.
anything Rough Riders was like favorites of mine. So like there was albums where like you might hear Jay-Z on a song or like on the second album, and like even when you go over to the Busta Rhymes albums, there's songs where you're gonna hear X here and there, you hear Jay,
Yep.
like so
Yep.
those three are the three that I always mention when people ask like, where it all kind of started. It was really DMX, Busta Rhymes, and Jay-Z for me personally.
Let's unpack one thing that you mentioned because it's something that's, I think it's safe to say is synonymous in a lot of households where people of color inhabit, growing up in the church and
Yeah.
having that in your life. And for a lot of people, they did kind of have to like hide the fact that they were listening to hip hop.
Yeah. Oh,
That shit's real.
it's very real. It's very real because it's obviously not just me, and a lot of my dogs
Exactly.
that I'm still like close with to today. Like I know some of them from them, from like I
Mm,
couldn't tell you when we met because we just grew up in church together. Our
yep.
parents are kind of on the same page as far as things, and you know, obviously life takes you where it's going to take you. So,
True.
um, yeah, it's definitely a big thing that like during that time like no one was really bumping the hip hop in their crib super loud. Like it was always the headphone thing, or like
Yeah.
if we link up somewhere else and we're listening to music, it's somewhere where the parents aren't really around, you
Right.
know.
True
But
enough.
yeah, that was definitely a big part of growing up for sure.
What type of music was being played in the household when you were growing up?
a lot of gospel music,
Yep.
reggae music. Because my dad's Jamaican, my mom's Guyanese. My dad used to listen to a lot of reggae. But like old school, like older reggae, rock us, like
Right,
Bob.
right.
You're gonna hear Dennis Brown, you know, uh, Alton and Bob Andy, and all them
Yes.
type of ones. So
True foundation thing. Yeah.
yeah, so a
Yeah.
lot of that, and then like a lot of like just old soul music, Temptation, Shy Light, Stylistics, that type of music was getting listened to. My mom used to like Jim Reeves, like there's a there's a good variety of music getting played, like a good variety of between
Right.
gospel and old school soul and reggae, basically.
It's kind of funny when you looked at the parents, record collections when you were a youth. Obviously, they brought their own flavor from back home, but then
Yeah.
when they came to Canada, they introduced new flavors to the collection. So you find some weird record in the middle of some dope records, like, huh?
Yeah.
This is an
Yeah.
ABBA record. What? Okay,
Yeah.
sure. ABBA, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Because you got to remember, like, those times back then, like the music that was popular was the music that was popular, and it
Yeah,
was just like, it's not like now where like if you don't like it, you can just go on the internet and find something else.
exactly.
Whatever is popular, you pick out what you like out of what you're introduced to, and you kind of just go from there.
Was there any sort of musical background that you were coming from? Because if you grew up in the church, there's a possibility you were in choir. There's a possibility you played keys. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. I was never big on instruments because
Okay.
my coordination for it just wasn't there. My parents put my brother in piano and my sister in piano,
Yeah.
and they both quit. So when I'm the youngest, so when my time came around, they're like, "Whatever, we're not even putting in that."
We
You
learned our
know?
lesson.
And like I didn't really think about it like that back then. But like when I think about it, it's like, man, I wish I got a shot at it because I might have liked
Right.
it. Who knows? But
Right.
um, but yeah, I definitely sang in the choir a little bit. I wasn't like a super heavy like in the choir consistently, like because I was
Right.
like I said, I was the youngest. So like when there was a point where my brother and sister were involved in certain things, I was still kind of just like too young to be involved. And then
Yeah.
you know, by the time I got to that age, it wasn't like as big of a thing in the church that I particularly grew up in. So like I did do some singing in the choir. I mean, a little bit of singing here and there in the church, but like I was always super shy. So like I had like the ability to hold a note and to understand like when someone is singing off, but
Right.
like I didn't really like singing in front of people or like singing out loud for that matter. Like I'll sing if I'm at home by myself, like just with the family. So the family knew
Yeah.
I had a voice from early in the game, but like I just never really was a go out and sing in front of people kind of person. But I always had like a little musical knowledge.
I feel you. I feel you. Choir was just some weird thing because your parents kind of pressure you into doing it, and you're a
Yeah,
kid, right? So you're like, well, my parents tell me I should do this, so I guess I'm gonna do this, right?
yeah,
And then the other homies from church are also in it, right? So you're
yeah,
like, all right, I guess I'm gonna do this,
yeah.
but
Because
I
it was
hated
more.
every second of it.
Yeah. For me, but the thing is with me, like in the church that I grew up, because we grew up Seventh-day Adventist, so it was like
Mm,
um the whole choir situation. It was more of a social thing than anything
yeah,
because like
yeah,
all the youth
completely.
and all the everybody in the church that was around
Facts.
the age group and some that were a bit older that you looked up to, like they were all involved. So like
Yep.
when they're having rehearsals on a Friday night or whatever the case, like yeah, you got to get up and go to the rehearsal, but it was a good time. The link up and just the energy was always a good time. And then you get to travel around a little bit. You might go to a different church,
Yeah,
um, sing at another church, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
was more of a like a it was more the just the fellowship of it and
Oh yeah.
that's kind of
The
what made
social
it.
aspect was real.
Yeah, it was very real, and
Yeah.
it didn't feel like it was something that we were pressured into doing like that.
Mm,
um, and then obviously later when you get old enough to kind of like make your own decisions, then you kind of
I'm
figure out
done.
what it is you really want to do, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I hear that. I hear that. So when you discovered hip hop, was there one you mentioned DMX, but you don't rap like DMX. Did you ever rap like DMX? when you first started out?
The thing is, like, it's hard for anybody, myself included, to really pinpoint like who I rap like,
Right.
right? Because like I feel like because I was listening to such a variety of music from so young, that by the time I got to the point where I actually wanted to write my own stuff, I was pulling from so many different places.
Yeah.
Yeah, in certain bars, the way I write or deliver a certain line, yeah, if you're an
Yeah.
avid DMX listener, you're gonna be like, that was some DMX.
Yeah.
You know? Or
Yeah.
a lot of people tell me like, yo, I could tell you're from the school of Jay-Z, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or like even Busta, like Busta Rhymes, like a lot of people sleep on what Busta is really capable of where rap is concerned.
Oh, for real. I don't know how, but
it's because they focus on the singles. And the thing is, he'll display the skill in the singles all the time. But he really, really gets into it when you listen to album cuts and you listen to the way that he structures the verse and the way he delivers certain things, the way he'll put a backup on one particular word of a bar just to make it hit a certain way. Like, you know, so because I had like, I feel like those three are very good three to like start with if you really want to be an elite rapper, because they all rap on an elite level when you really break down what they're doing. So
good influences.
Yeah, great influences. And then everything else that I listened to kind of just came in when I heard things that I liked. Like, I know how to like just kind of integrate it into what I'm already doing without sounding like, okay, yo, I'm taking this type of thing from Jada, or I'm taking this type of thing from Styles or whatever. You know, I just kind of, everything that I learned, I would just kind of integrate it into my own style that I put together off of everything, you know?
I hear you. I hear you. So how did Run and Gun come about? Run and Gun is, of course, yourself, Goudini, the power duo, the tag team, battle extraordinaires.
Yeah. So that's a cool story too. And just so you get the exclusive, it's not very it's super brand new news, not super common knowledge. Goo is actually undergoing the name change right now. Right now he's just going by Heavy G.
Okay.
Which I love it. When he initially brought that to me, I was like, I love that. That's dope. Heavy G is dope. Because it doesn't feel like you're changing your name. It's almost just like
true.
It's still Goudini, it's still Goo, but like call me Heavy G. Things are heavier now. You know?
Say word. I'm with that. Hell yeah.
So I'm with that. But yeah, back to how it started. Like both me and G were doing music for like a long time. Like we both
separately
came up through separately. We've known each other because like we've told you before, but for the listeners who didn't see the earlier interviews, like me and Goo went to high school together. He's a bit older than me. He was homies with my older brother. So like we're only a couple years apart, but when you're in high school, that couple years is a world of difference because it's different circles you're hanging out with. It's different. It's just a different life altogether. Like when you're that young, the couple years makes a difference. So we knew about each other. I was always a fan from when I heard about him. I've always been a fan. And then, you know, we ended up doing some music together here and there. And then we were always just in contact. Once we got older, where we're now in the same playing field, we were always super cool. And like his older brother and myself are super close as well. Like, so we just became a lot closer, like on more of a family vibe, you know, and it just got to a point where we were both just like, okay, we've both been doing music for a long time. We've both been doing different things solo and we're trying to really make a splash. So we actually just wanted to do a show. We were trying to do a show where we both perform, we get everybody to come out and we make a thing of it. And then we were talking to a friend of ours, Rich Kid.
So the Rich Kid.
Yeah, salute to Rich Kid.
Goo
and Rich Kid came up together. They both grew up in Ridge. Like they've known each other for forever, you know? So Goo was like, you know, let's holler at Rich and see what he thinks, you know? And I knew Rich from a while back as well, like from when I was younger. So we called Rich and we're like, yo, we want to do a show, like, you know, help us out with, you know, setting up a venue, whatever. And he was like, honestly, you guys should do like a project or something together so that when you do this show, you have something to offer people. Or like there's a reason behind the show. So we're like, all right, cool. So we end up, you know, just making some records and stuff and like didn't really do much with it. Then COVID hit. So when COVID hit, I was basically on the fence of like, honestly, I don't even really care about this music shit like that. If we're not going to be able to do
Oh, for real?
shows and if we're not going to be able to perform and we're not going to be able to be out and about, like the performance aspect for me is like my favorite part. So like,
No doubt.
thinking that that was potentially coming to an end, I was like on the fence about like, do I even care to like be this internet rapper who's just doing this for the internet since we can't actually link up? So I was
Right.
just trying to offload music. I started putting out singles. I started putting out all sorts of music that I was just sitting on. And then Goo was just like, yo, let's get this Contra thing. Or we didn't have a name for it yet, but Contra, our first project. We're like, yo, let's wrap this project up and just put it out. If that's what's going on, let's get it out, you know? So we just kind of wrapped the project up, called it Contra, released it, and the response was crazy. You know, everyone was like, yo, this project's incredible. We needed this. The game.
Dope ass record. God damn.
Thank you. You know, and
Fuck yeah.
like we just kind of got reinvigorated off of that. So when we turned around and said, all right, we're gonna follow it up with Super C, we were just like, okay, if we're gonna do this, let's not just make it just a J.O. Mairs and Goudini collab project. Let's come together as a duo, rebrand it as a brand new group. And then that way, when we're trying to push out this new music, it's like, yo, you're getting this from a brand new artist. It's not just two artists that have been around for a decade that, you know, haven't done that are coming together to offer you a project. It's like, nah, Run and Gun. So if someone sees Run and Gun, they're like, who's Run and Gun? You know, it's like a brand new group. So like, that's how that came together. Cause we were just like, yeah, if we're going to keep doing this, we got a good response. We definitely recorded a lot of music really quickly. So it's like, moving forward, getting this catalog of music out, we should do it under a new brand, a new group name, and really like push this duo thing. So that was kind of like the beginning of Run and Gun as we know it today.
And the name, damn that name.
It was perfect. Because like even with the name, like
yes, man.
when we're like, yo, we got to come together as a group, but we need a name, you know. And we're like, all right, yo, we'll brainstorm, we'll reconvene, throw some ideas back and forth. We'll come up with a list of maybe 5 or 10 and then pick the best one, you know?
Yeah.
Goo calls me shortly after. We finished that conversation that afternoon. He called me later in the evening, maybe 5, 6 o'clock or so, and was like, yo, I got an idea. What about Run and Gun? And I was like, yo, that's kind of dope. And I was like, it would also be dope if we spelled it, you know, all one word, RUNXGUN, all capitals, no spaces. That would be dope. So we're like, all right, cool, yo, add that to the list. And that was the first thing we came up with. We're like, all right, add it to the list. We'll come up with a few more, and then, you know, we'll make a decision. We hang up the phone. I sat there for maybe 10, 15 minutes. I called Goo back. I was like, yo, we got to run with Run and Gun. I was like, yo, man, we could sit here all day and think of some alternatives, but Run and Gun is crazy. I don't want to even bother think of something else. You know, I think we should just run with it, you know? So
straight up.
Yeah.
Your instincts were on point, dog. Trust.
Yeah. Shout out Goo for that one, man.
Hell yeah, Heavy G.
Yes, sir. Heavy G.
How did y'all decide when it came time for production? Was it just like whoever's got, you know, something, bring it to the table, and then we'll look at everything and see what works? Or was there a concerted effort to say, okay, well, you're gonna handle more production, or you're gonna handle more production?
Well, I produce. Goo doesn't produce.
Okay.
But with Contra, I produced all of it with the exception of one song. Right? There's one song, Stretch 4, our homie Got Dan. He's the one, we were recording it initially at his crib.
Okay.
So he showed us that beat. We did something to it. It was dope. We're like, all right, this is definitely making the project. Whatever this project is when it's done, this is going on it because this is heavy. Right. You know? Yeah. And then I had one track that I produced on the end, that track Too Much, that my engineer that I was working with, Eric Gordon, I just had him add some production to that, so he got a co-production on that as well. Okay. But outside of that, I produced the whole thing. So it was more so just like we recorded a bunch of music, we picked the songs that we wanted to use, we put Contra out. So when it turned around and came time for Super C, we were just like, okay, we really want this to feel just like Contra. So let's kind of go through the formula of what made Contra what it is and try to mimic it, right? So the first song, like on Contra, it's free. You know, it starts with the sample. It's a notable sample. You know, we've heard it before.
Yeah.
Freeway used it. Dame Dash used it. You
Yeah.
know, and then it comes in with the drums, and it's, you know, it starts with the soul, goes into the drums, and we go back and forth. So we're like, all right, we got to do that again for the intro of the next project. So we're brainstorming, thinking of like what songs we can reflip, because like we felt like that whole like, okay, we're reflipping old records that people are going to recognize, but I'm putting my own spin on it. We're like, okay, we could make that our thing that we really run with, you know? So that's when we're like, yo, the Beanie Siegel, nothing like it. That sample has that start off with the, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then we pick the drums in, we go back and forth on it, and then we go from there. And then it was really just a thing of like, we'll come up with records that we think we could reflip, or that would be a dope remake, and then I would just go cook it, really.
Right.
So,
right.
you know, that's how we ended up with like Blacklist and like Two Face and those type of songs that we had on there, like that were flips of like Beanie Siegel joints or Jay-Z joints. So
Right.
that's really, I like to keep it with Run and Gun. I like to produce most of it just so I can make sure that we're building a vibe that's consistent sound that we're going with. But we also know so many producers, and a lot of producers have tapped
exactly
in, you know, a lot of producers have reached out, like since we dropped Contra and Super C, and even before Super C, just saying, yo, you guys are dope, like I want to send you guys a pack if you mess with anything, like, you know. That's how we ended up with Snaz on the album. That's how we ended up with Rich Kid. I mean, Rich Kid was there from the beginning, so we had to make sure Rich Kid on there as well. But having a Snaz production and a Rich Kid production on the second project, you know, that was a big thing for us, to, because the beats that they gave us, it's still stuck in the vibe that we were going for, you know. Right. So, you know, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, all gravy, all gravy. One thing that really made me pay attention to y'all was the transition from Contra to Super C, because I was like, okay, well, this was the Contra. We're going to do the second one. It was a natural progression. The sound aesthetic was such a natural progression. Like, fuck yeah, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we not help champion this when the fire is that potent? How do we not help champion this? And that's why I had to reach out to you and say, let's get you guys, you know, on Instagram Live and let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? Absolutely. And I appreciate that, real, man, because like that was a whole thing. Like me and Guru, we just did another little podcast yesterday with someone out in Alberta. The Flying Formation podcast, I believe it's called.
Okay.
He was asking us about that, about like the projects and stuff like that, and we were just saying like, the move from Contra to Super C was like the most work that we put into a project. Like everything else we've put out, it was kind of like, okay, we got records, let's put it together, let's put it out, just shoot some videos, whatever. But everything regarding Super C was so calculated and so like planned out perfectly to a T. We planned out how the videos were gonna be. We planned out, you know, the color scheme, the branding.
Your aesthetic is real.
It was super thought out. So like Super C, to me, no matter what, like until we do something better than Super C, that's my top project out of the 4 we have. And that's the second one. So not to say I don't rock with, you know, Run and Gun Season and Rise and Fall, but Super C is our best put together project, in my opinion. You know?
Right. I'll have to agree with you on that one.
So that one definitely is a special one.
And I mean, before we get to the Joshua EP, it's not like you haven't dropped a couple of Lucy's in the last little while either.
Yeah, I've been letting some off, and just for reference, the Joshua, it was an EP initially, but it's an album now.
Oh damn! Okay,
that's an album now.
Okay, so nice.
There's 11 songs on it.
Excellent, yo, I love it, man.
Yeah, because like, it's 11 songs, so it's an album. But I've been dropping some Lucy's. A couple of them were just like I dropped a one called "Addicted to the Game" like in like July. That was like just something that I had that I was sitting on for a while, and I was like, my birthday was coming around. I was like, I want to drop a song on my birthday. What song should I drop?
Hell yeah, you should.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. Addicted to the Game. Let's get that out there. And then like as far as the other ones, I dropped some freestyles because, you know, Drake put out that challenge when he dropped it.
Yes.
For all the dogs. for the scary hour. So I did 3 freestyles like within like
Yes, you did.
yeah within like a
Yes, you
few
did, man.
days.
Woo!
Yeah, because I was like, nah, fuck this shit. Like, if you guys are gonna challenge to see who has bars, it's like it's never been a question of if I have bars or not. I just didn't think, people paid much attention to it anymore. But since there was a little spotlight on, let's see who has bars, I was like, oh, okay, I'll show you guys something about some bars. We could have that
Exactly.
conversation,
For anyone who is not aware, Drake dropped the instrumentals and invited everyone to come rap on them.
Yeah.
And then this man, woo,
Cooked them.
and that just made it more exciting to hear more new music, which is
Mhm.
obviously the reason why you did it,
Absolutely.
to help marinate the environment, to get people ready
Mhm.
for new fucking bars,
Yeah.
like for real. And the 4 a.m. joint, good God,
Yeah.
man.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. So yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
jeez.
Yeah.
I asked you for it. I said, yo, you got to get me to that. We put it on a Friday Drive AM mix because the shit was so fire. It's like, we need to drop this because you bodied that beat, dog.
Yeah,
God
man. Thank you,
damn.
man. Appreciate it.
Woo.
Man. Yeah.
Now, for the Joshua album, the Joshua full length, you are working with someone else. Tell us about who you're working with.
So I'm working with a producer named Josh Grant.
Right.
And my name is actually Josh as well. Like we're both
Obviously,
Joshua,
yes.
right? So as a joke initially, because like we started working on this project before Run and Gun existed. Like
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. This
Okay.
Joshua album was started like 5-6 years ago. Right.
Okay.
And like as I was working on it, we were just like, yo, we should do an album together or an EP together and just call it Joshua. And we're laughing in the studio, but then I was like,
Right.
dead ass, yeah, I think we should, And then it all kind of got put on hold with, between COVID and Run and Gun season.
Right.
Everything solo was just kind of put on the back burner,
Right. Right.
So what ended up happening was I had the EP done basically. I had maybe 6, 7 songs that were ready to go. A couple of them were just like verses that were like long verses. And we're just like, all right, yeah, cool. That EP's there whenever the time comes for us to put it out, we'll put it out. But then once things kind of slowed down a little bit, I'm not gonna say slowed down with Run and Gun, but once we stepped back and said, okay, what's the next move kind of thing. We're both just dealing with life in general. Goo has his fam. I got my shit going on, so we were just like, yeah, let's do some solo shit. Goo has a solo project ready to go to.
Word?
Yeah,
Okay.
he has it's called The Upside Down.
Oh, so we're gonna have to do a solo one with G now?
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to do
I'm
one
with
him
it.
too.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what his timeline's looking like as far as when he wants it out, but he definitely has it ready to go, So
Well, with Joshua dropping and his solo dropping, are these all like yours? Obviously, is coming out in January. Is he gonna drop his before any new Run and Gun stuff?
possibly. I think he's trying to get it out soon too. So I think the way it's going to probably end up working is like between the new year and the spring, you'll probably get both those solo projects from us, and then going into spring, you'll probably get the next Run and Gun project.
Okay.
That's kind of how we were thinking about mapping it out. So like we had the initial Joshua EP ready, and then now that I came back to it, I was talking to Josh Grant. He was sending me more beats. Like I ended up recording I ended up recording a couple new songs. Okay. And then we really sat down and we're like, okay, how can we really put meaning behind the EP and like giving it the name Joshua? Like how do we, really give something to it to make it special? And we sat there and talked for hours about all sorts of shit. Talked about religion, talked about growing up in the church, talked about all sorts of things, because there's a couple like songs on there where I mentioned certain things about, my upbringing, or about, a little bit more personal content than you wouldn't get from me really on a Run and Gun project, right?
Right.
So after we had that conversation, I ended up recording maybe 2 more songs. And and then we just added everything together, flipped the track list around so everything flowed nice and smooth, and you got like, you know, a good taste of the new and the old, but you can't really tell the difference of when what was recorded unless you like know me and you heard me listening to certain things. Like the album's gonna flow nicely, and like you're gonna learn something about me. It's a little bit more personal of a project, you know. So yeah, that's how that really came together at this point now.
And that was going to be my next question, Doc. How different is the Joshua project from what we hear from RUNXGUN?
I think the difference is it's more so just the content, you know. In Joshua, you're gonna hear some hardcore like bars and some rap on like a handful of songs. But there's just that handful of songs where it's like I'm gonna be talking about more like, you know, personal things that are more about like my story in specific, you know. Like I mentioned the whole growing up in the church. I mentioned like how I was saying, like, you know, you get to a certain point where when you get to that age, you're going to do what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
And you realize like, okay, you were only doing certain things because you were pressured to do certain things, or like, you know, I have a song on it called Conflicted, basically. And on that song, it just basically talks about like the conflict of that, you know, of like how I grew up, you know, being told one thing and how I was doing this, but I was also doing my dirt and doing like things on the other side of the game, and just like how I was conflicted about a lot of shit for a long time.
For sure.
Know? So like that's kind of like, I feel like that's like the standout on the project, where it's just like, yo, when you listen to that, this is Joshua right here, you know.
So answer me this: do you have difficulty opening up a little bit more about yourself?
I won't call it difficulty. I feel like it was just more just waiting for the time to do it.
Okay.
Waiting for the time to do it, and just finding the right way to do it, and you know, just making sure the music is good at the end of the day. I don't really have a problem talking about myself personally, as long as if it's something that I know is like, not to say not common knowledge, because not everybody just knows me like that, but like if it's something where it's like, yo, somebody can relate to this, I'll have no problem talking about it. It's just if it's about me and anybody else or any other third party that might not want to hear about it or whatever, like I'll be a little more skeptical about how I word things.
Right.
But if it's just talking about myself and just, you know, I feel like I'm at a point in my career where music is concerned where people got to just know who I am, man. You just got to know who I am. And when you have a better understanding of who I am as a person, you understand the music more, you feel the music more, you know? And that's something I always said about Goo too. Like Goo, I've been a big fan of Goo for so long. But then when RUNXGUN came out, it wasn't until me and Goo started running around and like doing this and that all over the place that people that I knew that didn't know Goo, after meeting him, they're like, yo, I fuck with this RUNXGUN shit so much more now. I like Goo's verse on this song so much more now that I've met him and I hear how he talks and I see how he moves. Like now when I listen to him, like I get it and I love it, you know? And like hearing people say that a lot for the last couple of years, it was just like, yeah, it's that time where like we really just got to show people who we are and let them love us for who we are, and the music's gonna speak louder after that.
Well, yo, man, I think it's safe to say y'all have this synergy, and it's very, very obvious. You play off each other really well, and it sounds incredibly natural. You know what I'm saying? You can tell that this wasn't something that was put together. This is like a natural symbiotic relationship that y'all have.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is super clutch. When it comes to branding, you guys are really good at branding too. I really gotta commend you. Your branding game is on point. And I'm not saying that no one else's isn't, but y'all kind of stand out with your branding.
Yeah, I like to hear that, because
for real.
Because I feel like before RUNXGUN, I feel like both of our issues was just consistency and branding. You know, I was kind of on the path to getting it right when I because I rebranded with a whole name in like 2014, 2015 is when I said, okay, my name is J.O. Mairs. You know, before that I had a different name. I was doing different things. Like my music was a little bit different.
What was your name before that?
So it was a name that carried on for a long time. I used to go by Chemical. And,
okay.
Basically, it was like, it started off as like chemical, but I spelled it Kemikal.
Right.
And like later down the line, I capitalized the Kal. So
you put your flavor on it.
You know what I mean? It was Kemi capital Cal, you know, just so you know it's Cal and not just chemical, you know. And this is something that started in like, I was like maybe 13 or 14 when I came up with that. So it was just like, yeah, it was cool. And, you know, but I ended up recording so much music that by the time I was like 17, 18, 19, where I didn't really care for the name as much, I just ran with it because everybody knew me as that anyway. Like all even now, like if you run into certain people, they're still gonna call me Kemi. If you run into into Rich Kid or Junior T or like certain guys that I came up around from back in the day, they'll still call me Kemi if you catch them in the right situation.
I hear that. You
know, it was an effort for people to remember to call me J.O. when we're out, you know?
No, for real. Yo, I deal with the same thing, man. I used to go by like back from time. People used to call me Jello. Like Jello, like the fucking Jello. Because my government is Angelo.
Oh, okay.
So when I was in like elementary, you know, everyone just shortened it to Jello.
Yeah.
And then I just rode with it because, you know, if that's what you're known, you just kind of ride with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like when I actually said, all right, you know what, fuck it, I'm doing the name change. If I'm gonna do it, I got to do it now. I can't wait any longer. You know. So I was just like J.O. Mairs makes sense. I was about to change it. I'll let you in on this. But when I was just about to change from Kemi, because I shortened it from Chemical to just Kemi, because that's what everyone called me for short anyway.
Right.
So I just made it Kemi. I was going by Kemi for a little while. And then when I was going to change from that, I was actually going to change my name to J.O. Simpson, which was just a play off of O.J. Simpson, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Just about like, you know, yo, I kill shit. Yo, I get away with murder on this shit type shit. But also on that, like, that Fife Dog on Find a Way when he's like, I'm on my J.O. bullshit. That's where I had that in my head from. So I was like, yo, J.O. Simpson is crazy. And I love that name to this day. I love it. It's still probably going to come out as like a mixtape.
I'm saying that could still be an alter ego, though.
You know what I mean? It's definitely still going to happen in some sense.
I'm saying.
My homie that I was working with was like, yo, why don't you just go J.O. Mairs? You know, it sounds dope. It's your actual name. It gives you a lot more range. Like if you go J.O. Simpson, like, you know that there's a specific type of shit you're going to get from that, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas J.O. Mairs, with it being your actual name, no matter what direction you want to take with your music or whatever, it's all gonna work, you know. So
it flows too, though, guy. It flows.
It flows nicely too.
Hell yes.
You know.
Hell yes.
Nice and easy. So with that, when I started that, I was kind of on the path of like making sure I was branded up. Everything was like consistent, but I still didn't have like a real grasp on branding itself. It wasn't until we came up with the name RUNXGUN and had that whole plan that we really sat back and like did some research. I read a couple books. I watched 1,000 YouTube videos about branding. I watched, you know, I did my research on how to put a good brand together and how to,
like any artist should. Let's be real. You know? Like any artist should, for real.
Absolutely. So when you tell me like, hey, yo, you guys branding is really good, it's just like, for me, it hits. It's like, yo, thank you, because we really worked to try to make sure that this branding was on point. You know,
well, you know, I don't need to tell you how important that is.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when you set the aesthetic and you set the identity, people come to know you as that. You become even more recognizable.
Exactly.
Straight up.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it. So in terms of I never got to ask you this before, I don't think. What are you kind of feeling right now in terms of hip hop? Like what is there anything you're feeling, or are you kind of in the zone, so you know, leave all the chatter outside so you can concentrate on what you're doing?
Yeah, that's kind of what it is for me, to be honest. Yeah. Like I don't listen to a lot of things that are coming out now. Yeah. Like I'll listen to certain things. Like if someone like Freddie Gibbs drops an album, I'm gonna listen to it. You know what I mean? Just to hear it, you know, and see what's going on. If I like it, I'm gonna listen to it for a while, and then eventually I'm gonna go back to what I'm doing. But like a lot of the time for me, and I've been like this since I was a kid, or like since I just started making music, it's like if I record something new, that's getting rinsed for the next however long until I either record something else or until I'm tired of it. So like right now, as of recently, like even though Joshua was an old project that kind of got spruced up a little bit, for the last little bit, I just been listening to Joshua like a lot. You know, I've been listening to it a lot. I've been listening to the freestyles I did on the Drake shit. I've been listening to those a lot. I mean, I recorded something yesterday and put it out.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, damn,
you know what
this
I mean?
guy is not going to stop.
Yeah. Like, at this point, it's not going to stop because maybe 2 weeks ago, I bought a new mic that I'm getting the sound that I like, or the sound that I'm good with, getting it right out of the crib. Right.
Nice.
So now it's just like, yo, if I write something real quick and I just want to knock it out and I just want to put a little Instagram video out or something, I'm going to do it. So you're going to see those at least once every week or couple of weeks. I'm going to do something like that, you know?
And again, that goes back to branding. That goes back to hitting people off with a little bit here and there, to kind of like the amuse bouche.
Yeah.
For the full lengths.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love that that's what you're doing. Seriously. That shows that you're on your game for real.
For sure. So like if I'm not listening to like myself or something I've done recently, like I'm probably listening to like the Isleys or Freddie Jackson or like Anita Baker, or like all sorts of old music. Like that's more so what I'll turn on if I'm just chilling in the crib, I'm cooking or something, I'm throwing on something like that. Like I don't listen to too much like outside rap and shit that often.
Sometimes you just have to do that so you can stay focused.
Yeah, I feel like that's what keeps me focused. Just the fact, you know, and the thing is, it's not that like, yo, I don't like anything that's coming.
No, it's not that at all. No.
That. And like I listen to all sorts of different things. Like I just have to be in the mood for it. Like I might go for a drive down the street to the store or something, and it's like, you know what? I'm listening to some fucking Juicy J right now.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And like,
yo, did you hear about Juicy J?
No, what happened with Juicy?
No, nothing bad. Apparently he's working on a hip hop jazz album.
I heard something like that.
What?
I didn't.
I need to hear this.
I would love to hear this, you know?
I need to hear this.
I like Juicy, man. Juicy's my guy. You know? I like shit like that, man. I like everything. That's the thing. I'm a musical person. Like I love music itself. Like I like melodic things. I like Young Thug. I like, you know, certain songs from like a Gunna or whoever. But like I'm not up to date on everything. Like I'm not checking for them so constantly that like whenever a new record drops, I'm on it. Like for something to come out and for me to listen to it right away, it has to be like Pusha T or like some shit like that. You know,
I think that's a universal sentiment, man. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Like if Push drops something, you know we're all gonna listen to it immediately.
For real. Like, man, I'm still thinking about, you know, all the releases that have come out in this past year, because obviously I'm paying attention to everything that's coming out.
Yeah.
But it's like there's really only one or two, you know what I'm saying, that rise to the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that at the end of the year, you can literally say, okay, so everything that came out this past year, I know that these two albums are the ones that I really rinsed the fuck out of all year. Yeah. Everything else was like a listen, give it a little more marination, okay, and then it's drop off.
Yeah. Or if there's really like a song or two that I really like, it might get thrown into my playlist of songs that I might just pull up when I'm going somewhere. But like as far as throwing an album on and bumping that album front to back again after the fact, like months after it's released, like the chance of that happening for me now is like super
that's not often. Yeah,
it's super slim, you know, like especially if I'm still recording music in that time frame, like, you know, that's just always how I've been. I've always been like this since I started making beats, since I started recording. Like if there's something I created that I can listen to, I'm listening to that as not only as a critic, but because if I'm feeling myself, if I really think I did well, like I'm listening to that shit over and over and over again, you know.
don't you hate those moments though when you're listening to your own shit and you obviously you're gonna be the biggest critic. You're like picking their shit apart down to its last fucking mitochondria.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? It's like, fuck, what was this? What was I thinking here? What was
yeah.
this?
Honestly, I don't have that as much anymore
Okay.
because I feel like I've been making music so long that like I know what I want to get out of it. I know how I want it to sound, and I know how to make it sound that way when I record it.
Say
If
word.
anything, I'll go in, I'll make a couple changes to production, or if I don't like the way I said something, I can always go back and just change that one thing. But more times than not, once I got it to a level where it was good enough to bounce it to a wave or MP3 and play it in the car,
Yeah.
I'm usually happy with it at that point.
Okay.
You know, anything that's getting changed on it after that is going to be in relation to the mix. It's not going to be too much about, you
Right.
know, I need to pick apart what I actually did. It's more like, okay, I'll link my engineer
Some
and be like,
tweaks.
yo,
Some
turn the
tweaks.
bass up a little bit on this
Right.
kick, cut the beat out right here. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be little shit like that. But like I feel like I'm in rare form, you know? Like I'm in
Hell
the
yeah.
space where like once I go and I do what I'm there to do, like this is fire to me. Like someone's gonna have to prove me the fuck wrong.
I'm saying. I'm saying.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Like honestly, like I can't stress the fact that both you and Goo and you with your solo shit, this is just like this is a special thing. I'm being so
Most
real with you. It's a special thing. And it's really easy to anticipate what the fuck you guys are gonna do next.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
when I found out about Joshua, I was like, yo, we gotta get on. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's
We gotta
talk.
talk about Joshua.
Let's
All
talk
right. We
about
need
it.
to make this happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So the full length Joshua is gonna come out in January,
Yeah. If not January, very early February,
early Feb.
but definitely first quarter of 2024.
Say
1000%.
word. Say
Yep.
word. And then we're gonna be looking at some solo Goo shit.
Yep.
And then we're gonna be looking at some new Run and Gun.
Yep. And you'll probably get a Run and Gun single here and there. Obviously, there's a Run
I
and
don't
Gun
doubt
by
it.
Joshua. You know, like
I don't doubt it.
there's no way I'm putting out like me and Goo, like if we put out solo shit, we're both gonna be involved in one way or the other.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
A story about that actually, just to throw this out there. You know, I'm gonna
Go.
talk because it's you. You know, I know you've been showing
Yeah,
love.
man.
So like the song on Joshua that Goo is on was actually, so that was the first time that I brought Goo to the studio to meet Eric Gordon.
Okay.
So this is when I was like, yo, Eric, me and my boy Goo, we worked on this project over at my Next Voice studio. I want you to mix it. I'm gonna bring Goo through so you can meet him. You know. And then he had an artist from Chicago, Vanta Black Soul, that was down here at the time staying at his crib. So when I brought Goo through, you know, I just did all the introductions. We chopped it up a little bit, smoked a couple blunts. You know, everyone got to know each other, and then we're like, yeah, let's work on a joint. Josh Grant sent like 40 beats over, you know, and we played the one beat. We're like, yeah, let's do this. So the three of us ended up rocking a song together. And so like you could hear it when I'm gonna send you a link so you can listen to the album. Because
say word. Oh, please do. Hell yeah.
Yes, because I had at the listening party, I had a QR code with the link, so like anyone could like scan it, get a private SoundCloud link, so that if they want to bump it on the way home,
yes,
wake up in the morning and smoke a spliff and listen to it, like you have access to it for the next little while until I reset the link. Whenever I decide, you know, it might be next week, it might be the week after, it might wait till the new year, I might cut it off on Christmas, who knows? But
nice.
I'm letting people who are there, like, you know, marinate on the album a little bit. So
Yeah,
I'll send
man.
it so you could take it in.
Hell yeah, man.
But when you hear that song that Goo and Vanta Black Soul are on, you can tell that Goo is there to fucking prove something. And I loved it because it was his first time meeting the engineer, his first time meeting Vanta, and like you could tell he was trying to prove something on the song. So the song just came out so nicely. Like we're literally back and forthing, like the three of us the whole way through. There's no hook. It's like 2 bars, 4 bars, 3 bars. Like the three of us just back and forthing. So It's a
Sick,
dope one. It's a dope one.
sick.
That's just a cool little story about, you know, a song on the album.
Man, I really can't wait to hear this still.
Yeah. I'm gonna send the link over to you now.
Yo, I gotta pick you up on your verse on the Rhyme Animals joint still.
Oh yeah. On the
Very
Calm
nice,
Down.
man. Very
Thank you,
nice.
man.
How did that
Appreciate
come about?
Well, he sent me the song and was just like, yo, this is the concept of the record. It was called Calm Down. It's just
Calm
basically
down.
about how music makes this thug calm down. It was a remake off of, I forgot who the original was. Was it AZ? I don't remember who the original is, but there was a play on a song that came out before that he was remaking. So he's like, yeah, it's just about like how music is the reason that, you know, I'm not wild and reckless like before, kind of.
Right.
I found like my verse, it was just like, okay, well, if I really want to be real about it, I was like, I'm just gonna make the verse about my OG, like the guy who really you know, made me take music a little bit seriously when I was like maybe 16, 17. At that point I did take it seriously, but I was still doing reckless shit because I was a kid.
I mean, yeah, come on.
When you're
Come
17,
on.
like,
You're allowed, yo, dog, you're allowed that still, okay?
Yeah, you know, like you're gonna have your time where you know you're gonna do what you're doing, and depending on the environment you were in and the people you're surrounded with. And he just happened to be someone who, you know, was a victim of the shit. Like he had to do some time, but like he had a name in the streets, like heavy.
Yeah, man.
But there's so many people that would have loved to be associated with the man, you know what I mean? But like I was like a little brother to him almost at that point. So like when he would see what I'm doing, he'd just basically be the example, like, because he couldn't go to the States. That was the main thing. He couldn't go to the States, and he was like one of the illest rappers ever.
Still one of the illest.
You know what I mean? Still, man, I'm not even Trey. I mean, the person I was referring to in my verse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The person I'm speaking on in my verse.
Okay.
Went by Logic, later known as Mason Payne. Right. So I don't know if you've heard of Mason Payne, but like he had his time. He used to rap. He still produces. He doesn't rap anymore. But when he was rapping, he was like top tier rap for the city. Like Toronto knew what it was, Saga knew what it was. But not being able to cross that border, like that makes a lot of difference, especially back then.
Oh man,
social media and shit crazy. Like if he was able to, you know, cross the border and spend some time.
If you could, you did.
Yeah, you know, and that made a world of difference back then. So like my whole thing looking at that situation when I was younger is just like, yo, man, I can't get myself in no shit that's going to stop me from being able to cross the border, you know?
Facts.
So that's how my whole verse for that came about. Cause like, he was always the one he was never like, yo, don't do this or don't do that. But he was always telling me the best ways to be smart about anything I was doing. And like, kind of like, yo, this shit's not that important. Like this shit, like you don't want to fuck that shit up. Like, you know? So like, that's kind of where the inspiration for my verse of that came from. I was like, yo, because like I can't say directly, yo, music itself is what made me calm down. It was more so thinking about what's at risk if I don't calm down. Right. You know what I mean?
That's facts, man. That's facts. For real.
Yeah.
Well, yo, man, as you know, you, Goo, Run and Gun, always welcome in the lounge space. We're always going to be here championing Run and Gun ting because the shit is just fire.
Most def. Appreciate you, man.
No, for real. The show looked like it was live still on the weekend.
Yeah. And the thing is, it wasn't even really supposed to be a show like that or anything. Like, it was just a listening party. I wanted people to come. I knew I was going to perform the one song that I did perform. I ended up performing a couple more later in the night.
Yeah.
But the one song, the same one I was mentioning before, Conflicted, I was like, okay.
I can't wait to hear this joint now. God.
Yeah. I sent you the link. So once we lock out of this, you know, take it in. Let me know how you feel about it and all that. Like, I knew I was gonna perform the one song. But by time, because it's a little later in the project, it's like third to last on the project. So like I knew how we were gonna do this. But once we got there, because the energy was so fire in the building, by the time we got to that point,
You're like, yo,
Performance
let's just
ended up
run it.
going crazy. Going crazy. Like I performed that shit with so much feeling. There's so
Nice.
much emotion behind the performance because of like just the environment and the setting. Like,
Yeah.
so it ended up being super lit. And then like after that, later on in the night, I ran the project back again. And because it was like a little bit smaller of a crowd, like obviously like after the first run, the place thinned out a bit. I ended up performing a little bit more just to make it a little bit more exclusive, you know?
Right.
But yeah, man,
Okay.
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Joshua, coming up first quarter.
Yes, sir.
And you know we're gonna get you back up in this motherfucker.
Yeah, man. And whenever you're
Then we
ready,
can talk about the joints.
you already know. Yeah.
You already know exactly. J.O.
Yeah.
Mairs, thank you once again for spending time with us in the lounge place. Salute
Yes,
to you. Salute to Goo. Run and gun
sir.
season nonstop. Don't get it twisted.
Always and forever, run and gun season. It's never stopping.
Hell fucking yeah. Yo, drop your socials for people.
Yep, you'll find me on everything J.O. Mairs. So it's J.O.MAIRS. So it's like Airs, like your Air Jordans, but with an M at the front for the murder of
Before
all.
Before I let you go, have you ever thought of playing with, because J.O. Mairs, I know when I first saw your name, I kind of like referenced the Earth joint.
Which one?
T dot Anthem.
Okay.
Because J.O.
Yeah.
You ever think of playing around with that to kind of recall back to like that time frame?
I never thought about it, to be honest. And
because
on top of that, I'm
J.O. sounds so much like, well, the obvious, you know.
yeah, right. I never really thought about it, mainly because I'm a super Saga head. I'm from Saga. I'm from Mississauga.
Yes,
so like
you are.
Saga side, Saga City.
Yes.
And I've always been avid about making sure I'm repping Saga. And I know Toronto's right around the corner. Like I'll get to Toronto in 10 minutes, but like
yeah.
I still gotta rep for Saga. I feel like Toronto has so much people repping for it. And like when you see people in Toronto, like artists, people, shorties, whoever it is, anyone from Toronto are the first person to open up their mouth and say, "Oh, this nigga's not really from Toronto. He's from Saga. Oh, he's from Brampton. Oh, you're from Ajax. You're not from Scarborough." You know what I mean? And like because everyone is so like that, and they've been like that since I've been young.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've always just been on like, yo, I rep what I rep. You know, at the end of the day, shout out Toronto. Toronto is obviously like the hub. But like when it's all said and done, if I'm gonna shout out something or represent for something, it's gonna be the Saga side, 1,000%.
Full disclosure, I've got good memories of Saga.
Yeah,
many good memories of Saga. Seriously.
Yeah, for sure. There must be. For sure. I know what it is over here. I'm gonna leave it off the record, but for sure you must have some good Saga memories.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks again. You know we'll connect again, and I'm gonna listen to this project.
Most def. Enjoy, brother. Thank you for having me once again.
All right. Salute.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Yeah.